Hi, welcome back. Today I want to talk to you about 10 signs that you may be psychic. Um, Millions throughout history and around the world to this day claim powers of clairvoyance, the ability to see beyond the present moment and to interpret things which are unseen by common people. So we'll jump right into it. The first sign is you don't give a shit how you dress. This tends to be a sign of a person who maybe is not as fashion conscious, who maybe has a questionable style. A lot of people can be off put by this, by the presence of somebody who just seems to not care at all what he or she is wearing. And for this reason, psychics do this because they can see beyond all things and the vanity of appearances. Sign number two is you don't fight with other egos. A lot of times this is connected with the first sign, but when someone is transcendentally minded, when somebody is psychic, for lack of a better word, other people are of little concern to them in the way that they care what other people think. A lot of times there will be petty arguments in life. There'll be people who say things, to get under our nerves. But a psychic will be able to look beyond these negative comments or these negative uh, accusations or attacks, and they will be able to become associated more closely with the root of the problem, which is the spiritual essence of those problems. This leads us to sign number three, that no matter how many people around you there are, psychics tend to still feel a feeling of aloneness. Um, Many times, I don't know if you've ever been like at a party or you're in a big crowd or you're in a crowded public area, maybe the mall or a park, and there's so much going around you. There's so much commotion. There's maybe people trying to sell things, people trying to have conversations, but you still somehow feel not in the company of people. Um, and this is a clear sign that you have a transcendental mindset and that your clairvoyant abilities sort of make you feel in isolation, which can sometimes be rather depressing, and can lead to even antisocial behavior among psychics because they are so used to everything being so superficial that nothing is substantial or grabs their attention quite as easily as it seems like the general public has their attention grabbed. Sign number four is that where where people think of, where people act on tales of gossip, where people exchange rumors, where people create small talk, a lot of times a psychic person will find a great distaste in small talk or gossip. They just don't have time within the capacity of their minds to entertain superficial, fleeting details, positive or negative, really, about other people's lives, how people, what she said, what she did, OMG. Psychics don't have time for that. Psychics don't usually tend to like to waste their energy upon such things. So a lot of times, while the psychic may be sort of throughout their lives have been accused of being stuck in the clouds or whatever by other people, maybe loved ones or people they've known, um, they're actually stuck in like another realm of thinking. Number five is that psychics tend to be more of listeners than they are talkers. This is because they are pretty much content with the amount that they are forced by society to share about themselves. And for that reason, they're not usually jabbermouths. They don't usually go on about themselves constantly. And a lot of times this invites, by kind of a coincidence, unfortunately, this invites a lot of narcissistic, self absorbed personalities to the psychic because they know that this psychic person has the patience and the capacity to take on all the load of their baggage, and their problems, and, on and on and on. So a lot of times, as a result, psychic people tend to be better listeners. Number six is that, and this sort of relates to number five, you feel the emotions of others when you're psychic. Words have, or words in language are meant to convey from one mind to the next feelings or emotions underlying them. And when words or communication is received from one person to the next, those communications can become interrupted, um, by maybe the wording that's used or the way that someone says it. And a lot of times, when it comes to common people, uh, emotions aren't picked up on, but words are seen at face value. In other words, things are as they appear and things are as they sound to be, and there's not much more beneath that. It's considered by the common mind. But the psychic is distinguished in that they can actually sense beneath the words or beneath the gestures that somebody who is speaking to them has. They can detect that underlying emotion behind it, and therefore they can sort of preempt the communication in a sense by getting a better sense for how the person feels and where they're coming from. The psychic, in other words, doesn't have to merely rely on language or signs. They can actually interpret the source of the person. They can actually interpret the source of where those words come from. Number seven is you generally think society at large is stupid or unenlightened, but you laugh at it anyway. A lot of times, psychics will know the extent to which society is caught up in itself, or in a general sense, how many people don't know what's going on. They have no idea what's going on. People are just going with the wind of the sails, whatever's trending, whatever. Psychics, they tend to just laugh at that stuff because they sort of transcend that general tide, and they're distinguished in that respect. And sadly, a lot of times they're also isolated because of that very thing. Number eight is that you can make fun of yourself. Somebody steeped in their own ego, somebody who takes themselves rather too seriously, has developed a narrow point of view and has developed a narrow mind to where their self image cannot be shaken or mocked or whatever because it's so fragile and it's so unsubstantiated by truth. These many people suffer from a kind of egotism or an ego sickness to where the ego cannot look at itself in the mirror almost. And psychics, a lot of time, people of a higher consciousness or people in touch with a higher consciousness, have the ability to make fun of themselves because in truth they realize that there is no self of theirs, and that to make fun of something like that, to laugh at themselves, is really quite meaningless anyway. Whereas the ego driven person takes it very seriously because they're absolutely convinced that there definitely is a self, and perhaps they're the greatest self of all. Number nine, a lot of times psychics will get lost in reading. Um, this offers portals or gateways, especially authors. A lot of times, people who write books will sort of construct their work in such a way that it becomes a gateway to another world. It becomes a gateway to the way, or perhaps the way that the author saw his or her uh, general surroundings, no matter what time they lived in, or how old the book is or whatever. A lot of times the author will seep into their language, into their words, a very easy means for a higher mind to be able to just waltz right in and just get and totally become immersed. A lot of times psychic people are very empathetic readers, where they often score very high on, for example, reading exams, because they're so able to derive such potent meaning from so few words. It's kind of like the same way with verbal communication between, like, living people. They're able to derive from the words of the author the meaning which the author meant to portray through that. Um, and finally, this brings us to number 10 of the 10 signs that you're probably a psychic, and is that the 10th sign is that you knew what this entire video would actually say. Thanks for watching.